there, it's John Chan with another episode of Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. If you're watching us live here on social media, make sure and hit subscribe, share, like, or comment. And today's guest is already there on social media. Hey, if you want to get all the episodes for the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online and subscribe on one of your 13 favorite places that you love to get podcasts at. And this is my invitation to you. I hope you come join me either virtual or in person October 28th through the 30th in Seattle or online at the Engaging Conference. You can get a free ticket here at engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON. We're every October every year. So scan the QR code and check it out. So speaking of check it out, today's guest is around music, and I just want to share a little clip with you that I used music. And it's funny, he said, I still have this tab open with the resource we used with this. So I got to be the MC at GSMCon, or Government Social Media, and we wanted to make a big interest because I was 4 years virtual and this is my first time being in person. So we created this interest as a shout out to Sherry Levitan, one of my speaker friends who perfected this format. This is my first time doing it, but what we wanted to do was simulate something where I was on virtual and that I would cross the country from Seattle to Orlando in about a minute. So check this out.
The people that form GSMCon, your heroes with a plan. Government that the people can understand. In a room with no spotlight.
GSMCon! Congratulations on your 10th anniversary from Virtual Land. I'm so excited to be your MC again on this amazing achievement. Hey, Ariana, I've got a special gift for you.
In a room with no spotlight, behind the screen like glow. They tell the people's stories so the whole world knows. From city halls to counties and every tribal land, they type with heart and hustle with justice in their hand. No, they don't wear capes, but they show up every day, answering the questions in 1,000 different ways, translating truth in every tweet and post, serving the people coast to coast. No, they don't wear capes, but they show up every day, answering the questions in 1,000 different ways, translating truth in every tweet and post, serving the people coast to coast. Government, social media, you keep us all in sync, bridging every gap with just a post.
So that video, again, was shown at the entrance for that conference, and the music that's underneath though is written by Suno. And if you haven't checked it out, suno.com. I'm not sponsored by them, don't get any compensation, but it is one of the coolest AI music making resources. And me and this my next guest talked about it. We're going to talk about all sorts of cool things about music because my next guest, he's a community manager and he's also on the morning show on SiriusXM. He's a self-proclaimed Irish Nuyorican, which is a New York Puerto Rican who was raised in Jersey City, New Jersey. He's a hip-hop cultural specialist under the tutelage of KRS-One and the Temple of Hip Hop. Let's welcome the one and only Jeffrey Rowe. Jeffrey.
Hey, John. Thank you so much for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so glad to have you on the show. And of course, listen to the extraordinary auditory quality of our good friend Jeffrey. I think you're rocking the Shure, SM57?
Yeah, I believe that's this one. It's whichever one comes with the boom arm attached to it as well. And then luckily my virtual background kind of makes it seem like I'm just that good at audio. So yeah.
It's a good piece of virtual. Wait, what t-shirt are you wearing today?
Oh gosh, so this is actually I decided to wear this one today because I just heard on the news that they're going to be playing in August in Central Park. So the Originals is a DJ collective consisting of Stretch Armstrong, DJ Tony Touch, rest in peace to not Rich Medina, but oh my gosh, this is horrible that I'm forgetting his name right now. That's because I'm on the spot. One of the DJs from the Originals, big time DJ and producer, passed away last year, and his name is escaping me at the moment. So gosh, forgive me for this, but yeah, Stretch Armstrong, DJ Tony Touch, Rich Medina, and D Nice also. So this DJ collective actually formed back around as a fundraising effort for Hurricane Sandy. which
Oh,
I want to say that was like 2015, 2016, something like that. But they persisted during COVID. One of the DJs, part of the originals, D Nice, started an initiative during COVID called Club Quarantine. So they all of these DJs kind of started doing their thing on Twitch during
yeah.
COVID, and here we are on the other side of this thing, and they're still doing their DJ sets on Twitch, and they've actually even taken D Nice has taken his Club Quarantine and actually brought it to the Apollo Theater in Harlem. So interesting how a lot of these things that kind of came as a result of COVID are still are coming back in on the other side in real life.
Yeah, Jeffrey, one of the things that I've been saying, my recent saying is that virtual is the gateway drug to in person, right? And so that,
Correct.
and here, I got all five here.
Yeah,
Stretch
yeah.
Armstrong, Rich Medina, D Nice, DJ Tony Touch, and DJ Clark Kent.
Clark Kent. Clark Kent. Rest in peace to DJ Clark Kent. Yes.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Jeffrey, for my guests who don't know you, my friends who don't know you, take a moment and just really introduce who you are and what you
Yeah.
do in the world and talk a little bit about your brand new podcast, which is amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm a community manager. I've been doing this work, digital community management, for the past 14 years. Currently, over the course of the past year or so, I've been not on the morning show on SiriusXM, but supporting in a very, very informal way, building community around both a podcast called The Rap Dad Show, as well as the Sway in the Morning show on SiriusXM. So these are some sort of like behind the scenes sort of things that I've been doing in my off time, just because I actually used to work at SiriusXM at one point in my career. On their listener care team, so getting in touch with keeping a pulse on the voice of the community over at SiriusXM, and the relationships that I formed from that time kind of just evolved organically. So that's something that I've been doing just to keep myself busy, sort of giving back to the community over the past year. But more recently, I launched a podcast of my own called Beats, Rhymes y Comunidad. Comunidad is the Spanish word for community. And I wanted to start something that spoke about what I do professionally, but not be a monolith in that regard. I think there's enough podcasts out there about community management. If you want to go avail yourself to those, I would highly recommend that you do, for anyone interested in career management as a career path.
Mhm.
But I would definitely say that Beats, Rhymes y Comunidad seeks to explore the intersection of community and culture. So to that effect, we bring on folks both from the community management space as well as folks from the entertainment sector. So yeah.
Very cool. So when did you first start DJing? Or did you start young or did you pick it up a little later in life?
That's a great question. I'm actually not a DJ at all. I don't DJ. I haven't I've
Oh,
recently grown an interest in DJing
right.
because of the fact that a lot of the folks that I follow are DJs. Like Tony Touch is by far my favorite DJ. I wouldn't know about the originals had I not been a fan of DJ Tony Touch, and he's been doing things for a very long time now, and I've been listening to him since like high school years. So that fandom has just remained consistent over the past 20 plus years, and as a result of being a fan of his, it's like going down a rabbit hole of music. I just been introduced to a number of folks, both in the DJ community as well as the larger hip hop community as a result.
Yeah, DJs have really skyrocketed in terms of status now too, as they're, becoming creators, not just playing other people's things. And I'm curious, go back to what was that first DJ experience that you remember that says like I'm into this, right? This is like something I want to see or hear more of.
100% is like the first time that I listened to one of DJ Tony Touch's landmark mixtapes, which is called The Peacemaker. So it's a mixtape that was produced as a studio album that came up out, I want to say like 99 or 2000, could have been something like that.
Yeah.
But definitely about 25 years ago or so. And yeah, it's the not just the blends of the music itself, like listening through that entire project from top to bottom is not just great hip hop that's there, but also you can hear infusions of other genres of music that come with that, whether it be R&B, whether it be salsa, whether it be old school funk music. And that's one of the great things about hip hop too, right? Is that it's not just a genre. It's something that's kind of all encompassing in terms of music overall.
Then that leads to, every musician talks about influences. So, you want to
Hmm.
chat about few, who are some of your favorite influences
Yeah.
inside of the music you like or create?
Yeah, I definitely have my favorites, but in terms of influences, I attribute my biggest musical influences to my parents, right? Like growing up, I my father was a big fan of classic rock, so that's where I get my love for rock music.
Oh,
My favorite bands in terms of that are like Incubus, Deftones, Foo Fighters are probably my top three in terms of that, but I have a very, very wide palette when it comes to music stuff. And then from my mother's side, she listened to a lot of R&B, soul, funk, and salsa music. So I think that's where the love for hip hop kind of came into it, and putting the two together has created a pretty solid foundation for me to branch off into other genres like jazz and salsa music and just even when it comes to the more eclectic things that I listen to on the electronic side of things, or some more abstract sort of sounding genres of music. So, yeah, I would definitely attribute my influences to them. Had a lot of music playing in the house growing up, going to house parties in Washington Heights, where And then here's the other thing too: is like my bonus father, my stepfather's Dominican, so I'm Dominican by association. My father's Irish, so I'm half Irish, half Puerto Rican, and then my bonus dad is Dominican. So growing up, going to house parties in Washington Heights, everybody's eating food and dancing merengue and drinking all night long, and I'm falling asleep next to the speaker. Like, is just how I grew up. So yeah.
gets into your DNA, I'm curious on your side then too, Jeffrey. Like music is so super important to me, and it's my thing that I always notice too is that you can change a whole room, right, in 3 seconds if you play the right piece of music at the right time. And
100%.
I'm just curious about your view. How does music form and support culture? And around, what are some of your beliefs around what music does for us as
Well, I
humans?
mean, they call it the universal language for a reason, right?
Oh, good one.
I recently went to watch that movie Sinners, and this shouldn't be too huge of a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But there's this one scene in the movie where it's sort of like a montage, right? And the movie takes place in the Deep South during like post Civil War times, so slavery and racism is still very ripe in the film, but there's this one and they're starting a jazz club to like throw some parties off, so there's like that promoter DJ element vibe to it, which also was a big part of my affinity for the film. But yeah, this montage sort of like they kind of take you on a whirlwind trip of like not just the jazz music and the party music that they were into at the time,
Hmm.
but also how that like spun and took us through history, and even all the way through hip hop, and they kind of illustrate every genre of music in this montage, and it was just beautifully done. Like it brought me to tears,
Oh,
and even when they explore some of the other musical elements in the film itself, because the plot is very racial, but then there's also like the antagonists of the film, the white folks, that they're all like river dancing, but even those scenes were beautiful too. Like it was amazing.
well, you talked about rabbit holes. I'm just curious, what was my recent rabbit hole that I went down? I was watching like a whole series of movies. Like, oh, I know what it was. Of course, things like this is an easy one. Mission Impossible, right? The new Mission Impossible movie came out, and
Yes,
I
yes.
just binge watched like 1 through 7, right? And I
Uh-huh.
haven't even seen the new one yet. Like, I've been still waiting to see it, but I
Yeah.
went through it, and sometimes in a musical journey, like if you start with somebody and you're like, I want to know more about this. So you go backwards or you see their influences. I'm just curious if you've ever taken one of these musical journeys, Jeffrey, and what did you discover if you did it?
Absolutely. Like I can think back to every artist that I've mentioned to you so far, starting with Incubus. And anytime I fall in love with an artist, I go from wherever I discovered them, and then I have to go back. So it's important to me to because I feel like you're kind of entering into a relationship with the artist when you start listening to their music, and you know how deep that relationship goes all is all up to how engaged you are with the material. So
Yeah.
when I know that I really like something and I'm like, oh wow, this is like I could love this, um I have to do my homework because I have to get to know the individual better. It's like, okay, you just got me on our first date and I want to call you back for another one. So how can I do that? You know, how can I find out what's your favorite color and what kind of thing, what's your favorite dessert? What do you like to eat, you know? So it's like doing your due diligence as the listener to see what kind of other work they've done, get to know them as an artist, and then it positions you to say, okay, I'm caught up now. Where are we going from here? You know, like how far are we going to meander now that I've gone down the rabbit hole?
Well, here's one of the music journeys that I took. My son went to school at Rensselaer, which is in Troy, New York,
Uh-huh.
and we went to a concert, and it was Postmodern Jukebox. Have you heard of this band?
I have not. I have
Oh
not.
gosh. Postmodern Jukebox, like the story, this is a great musician story, right? He
Uh-huh.
graduates with like a PhD in ragtime, and then he figures out
Wow.
that there are no jobs for PhDs in ragtime. So he started producing YouTube videos by
Uh,
taking modern songs and doing covers of them in the style of ragtime. And he blew up. He's like got over 5 billion YouTube
amazing.
views. And so we went to go see him live, and I went to go see them live again in the front row here in Seattle.
Mhm.
And like just talking about musical experiences, they do a version of Black Hole Sun, right? You know, remember Soundgarden? Black
Yeah,
Hole
as
Sun.
soon as you said Seattle, I was like, I'm dying to go to the Grunge Museum in Seattle.
Oh. Oh yeah, yeah. I'd take you myself, right, to the
Yeah,
EMP Museum, and there's just you would just geek out in such a big musical way, Jeffrey. I take a lot of my
sure.
friends there. But this version of Black Hole Sun, sung by musicians that specialize in the 20 to 50s style, is
Yep.
so impactful, right? And it was
Yeah.
so energetic, and it was just so, that's what take the rabbit hole too of again virtual, like listening to an album or a tape is actually a kind of a virtual experience. To the seeing them live was just something else off the chart. And
It's like that the Soundgarden song Rusty Cage. Like people hear when Johnny Cash covers Rusty Cage by Soundgarden and they think that Soundgarden covered a Johnny Cash song, but it's
but it's
really
the other way
literally the
around.
other way around. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do remember that song. And that's when genius comes around, when musicians collaborate and they
Hmm.
end up creating something sometimes bigger than themselves with that. So
100%.
well, I'm kind of curious, Jeff, with you, what has to happen? Like we talked about what engages you in music. What has to engage you like in a virtual meeting, right? So like either, radio's kind of a version of it, or your podcast is also a version. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what has to happen in these other places that engages you, Jeffrey Rowe?
That's such a great question, especially considering, you know, the topic for our discussion and what I'm trying to do with my show, right? Because I don't want my podcast to look and feel like another podcast, you know.
Right.
Of course, there's going to be instances where it will, like anytime I interview a guest that's in Seattle or another remote part of the world, like it's going to have to look like a Zoom call, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to accept that, but whenever and wherever I can, I like to also meet my guests in person and interview them in person, just as a production value kind of thing. But in addition to that, I'm exploring any and every way that I can take my podcast and make it feel more like a radio show, you know.
Right.
And that was kind of what brought us together, is like I want there to be a live DJ segment in my show, and I actually want my show to be a LinkedIn Live like yours, but I've come to find out that you have to have at least 150 followers on your LinkedIn page in order to use that feature. So please, anyone watching this, follow Beats Rhymes y Comunidad on LinkedIn, because I'm trying to hit 150 followers so I can take this happy party over there. But right now, all of my episodes are on YouTube. You can find them there. But yeah, so one thing I've been doing, right, is since I'm such a big fan of DJ Tony Touch, I bought he sells all of his mixes because Tony Touch has been DJing since the year I was born, 1985. And
Okay.
this flash drive that I purchased from him, TonyTouch.com, you can buy all of his mixes on one flash drive, and he's got them separated by genre. So this is the hip hop collection, but he's got salsa, he's got R&B, he's got old dance music, funk stuff from the 70s, a whole bunch of different genres you can explore there. And I'm like, all right, let me see if I can just take some old mixes and hopefully none of the bots will flag me. So far, I'm only 6 episodes in. I've used a few of his mixes in some of
Oh,
my earlier episodes, and they've been getting caught, but but they
see.
haven't hit me with a serious ding on my account. But like, yeah, they'll definitely pick up. Oh, we know this song from here and there, but they're few and far between because of the fact that not only is it a mix, but it's a mix from like 1991. So there's that part to it. But yeah, I'm trying to answer that question for myself in going through the process of producing my show. So I guess to answer your question as far as virtual meetings go, we've got to find not only ways of keeping our attendees engaged from a topic perspective and whatever it is that we're discussing, but
Yeah.
also how are we curating an experience for them that goes beyond just, hey, here we are. I got to make sure I look good for this meeting or not,
Yeah.
is it party, is it business up front, party in the back kind of deal? Like, yeah, it's definitely something that we should be continuing to think about as we're now in this hybrid model where having virtual meetings makes sense as far as it does for the business.
Yeah, and shout out to our good friend Todd Nielsen. He's the one who put us together.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Todd does a lot of community work too. That's probably where you met him, is in the
That's
community
a
support.
100% where I met him. Shout out to Todd. Shout out to the Community Consultants Collective. Really, the motivation and the inspiration for my show came due to the fact that I am in the process of getting a consultancy off the ground for my community management work. So I
Yeah.
am entering my hat into the ring along with a number of my colleagues like Todd in starting a consultancy for community management services. So with someone doing this on a shoestring budget, I thought to myself, hey, why don't I start a podcast, help build awareness around my consultancy while also creating a platform to put a spotlight on community builders out there who are doing great things in their own right.
I'm going to give a shout out to our good friend Todd here on LinkedIn. Let's see if I can find his account on here. One of the things is around community management, right?
Mhm.
So, Jeffrey, tell me your theories or some of your foundations of what has to happen in community management. Because community turns out to be an engagement issue, right? Like communities only exist when people say, I want to engage with you or the community that you are supporting. So, what are some of your core theories in community management?
Yeah, one of my core theories is just explaining what community management is, right? Like so many people who I say, "Hey, I'm a community manager," first they think, "Oh, you're a property manager," and it's like, "No, I mean online communities." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, so you're on social media." And I'm like, "Yeah, but no." And then like they're like, "Okay, well, what is community management?" And I often end up drawing a parallel to social media management because a lot of my career has been spent at the intersection of the two. And while there's definitely some synergies, they're not one and the same. So the way that I explain it to folks is social media management is a customer acquisition tool, and it's used to build brand awareness and bring new customers in the door, whereas community management is a customer retention tool that's designed to create meaningful and authentic relationships with your customers. And in doing so, you remind them of the value that you represented when they first made a purchase decision with you. So that's core belief number one. And then core belief number two, in where we are with me having done this work for almost 15 years now and having a lot of colleagues of mine who I respect and admire deeply, who've been doing it even longer than I have. For some reason, we still seem to struggle in terms of solidifying our place in the professional world. And I think a lot of that has to do, especially at the enterprise level, where it's like a lot of companies know they need community, but they're either not willing to double down on the investment because they don't see the value, or they're really just exploiting community management in order to affect revenue generation and growth. And that's where my job goes to die. Because in 2025, you better believe that the age of the savvy consumer, if you're, if you're claiming to be a brand who's really invested in your customer success, but you're constantly trying to sell them on something, they're gonna be able to figure that out. And once they do, they're gonna go running in the other direction. But if you provide some of that value up front and nurture some of that trust in order to build the relationship, then you could have a customer for life. So,
Yeah, so important. I'm just curious, have you ever seen or heard about Drum Talk TV?
Drum Talk TV, I have not.
Oh, that's an introduction I can make to you. Dan Schinder runs Drum Talk TV,
Uh-huh.
and it's one, it's all about drummers, and they've actually been able to get big enough. They have over 1 million subscribers or members now on their Facebook group, and they have gotten some of the top drummers like Neil Peart
Oh,
to
wow.
yeah, and gets like exclusive interviews on Drum Talk TV. And so Dan does a whole series on
Amazing.
uh, how do you gauge these audiences too? Because it's not enough to have 1 million followers in the group. You got people to click and join, but will they do anything?
Right.
That's actually the real signature. And that's like algorithms too. Shout out to our good friend Richard Bliss, who just says right now, LinkedIn, for instance, is totally geared on conversation. So, Jeff, one of the top
Mhm.
tips he gives you is like your podcast or whatever you do on your LinkedIn Live, if you can get 10 people to comment on your LinkedIn Live within the first hour that it's live, it
Yeah.
will get seen by more people.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense because they want to be feeding you the content where they see that there's an actual conversation taking place, not just a one to many, oh, here's my podcast and
Blast,
I'm
blast,
I'm
blast.
talking at you. Yeah.
Yeah, instead, you're spurring on a unique and interesting conversation that other people are unique, and so then they're willing to show it to more people because more people are going to be interested, and so it turns into one of those never-ending chains of that's why some posts go really, really viral. Uh,
100%.
with this, let me ask you this, Jeff. From your position, then, all right, intersection of music and technology, what do you see in the future, 5 or 10 years down the line? What do you see in the future of communities and/or virtual communities?
I want to say that I think there's going to be a pivot away from traditional online community platforms as we've come to know it.
Okay.
We see what was a recently company that I used to work with, Khoros, was recently acquired by a company called Ignite Tech. So we're talking about companies that were previously owned by like Vista Equity Partners, between them and Gainsight. But I think that with us, and we've already started to see it in terms of like crypto communities and gaming communities adopting to the more Discord or Slack type of form of communication and community hosting, because it's these tools are a lot more than just chat tools. There's a lot of powerful things you can do with them when it comes to hosting and managing a community. I think we're going to continue to see more of that, especially as, the music industry itself hasn't really completely wrapped its head around what community management is. They're still looking at community in terms of an audience, and that's a huge, huge misnomer for them. So there's a lot of education that's currently taking place around that to really let them know about what that truly means. So I'm looking forward to like how it looks. That's kind of one of the things that I'm doing with Sway in the Morning is really galvanizing the listenership, because we're talking about SiriusXM that has like over 34 million billion subscribers, something like that. I think it's 34 million.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, Sway in the Morning's got a not just an audience in the US and Canada, but we're talking about a global audience. There are people that tune into the show that VPN into the broadcast because SiriusXM is only available in the US and Canada. But
Hmm.
we're talking about a cross-country effort between myself and listeners who are in California, just trying to create an initial cohort
Yeah.
how do we galvanize all of these listeners together? And there's huge vetting processes when it comes to stuff like that. But I was actually having a conversation with someone about this yesterday, and I still think that it can work very similarly to what we've seen in the SaaS space with chapter programs, right? Where you have a one person that's on the side of either the music company or the band or the record label, whatever kind of entity it might be, who's overseeing a number of chapter directors in different parts of the world and sort of using that as like, here, we got our hub, LA, New York, international, all that stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing, what happens with those communities. I mean, that is one of the cool pieces in virtual is that you can create national and international communities easier than ever. The
Hmm.
question is, now can you do it?
Yeah.
Speaking of now you can do it, this is my brand new section of this podcast called the Speed Interview. I'm going to ask you a series of questions that I wrote during this interview, and you got to try and answer them as fast as you can. And I get to play
You're
some fun.
multitasker, you.
That's right.
Let's do it.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, DJ, you want to give a shout out to?
Tony Touch.
There you go. Right. Best mixtape you've ever had.
Best mixtape, The Peacemaker, Tony Touch, once again.
Wait, what makes you a proud Puerto Rican?
What makes me a proud Puerto Rican? That is a wonderful question. I want to say that the environment, my upbringing makes me a proud Puerto Rican because I went through a lot of experiences in my youth that still stick with me to this day, not
Yeah.
just in terms of the music, but in terms of the food, in terms of the lived experience. And the more research I do into the history of my culture, which is a journey that only started for me kind of recently. I've had inklings of the history of my culture sort of planted in me, but those seeds are just starting to come to life now. Right. So I'm learning things about my culture that I never knew that give me a renewed sense of pride in being Puerto Rican. So it's an ever evolving sort of pride that continues to reinvigorate itself as I grow as an individual.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jeffrey, because I grew up with the path of assimilation, right? I grew up in California. I
Mhm.
don't speak any Chinese, but I tell people as a joke, I speak perfect Californese. You know what perfect Californese sounds like?
No, go for it though. I want to hear it.
It sounds like this. Dude, dude, dude.
No.
Dude.
I am,
So,
yeah.
but about 8 years ago, I really started to embrace my own culture, and I've now done so many activism type of things in the Chinese, Chinese and Asian Pacific Islander
Yeah.
element, and some of them are first time things, and so yeah, just
Hundred percent,
proud
hundred
with that.
percent. There's another hat that I have in my collection because I got a big hat collection. But there's a hat of mine that's the Young Lords. So I didn't know about the Young Lords, but the Young Lords were like the Puerto Rican version of the Black Panthers that came.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, it started in Chicago, made its way over to New York, and we're really lobbying for the living conditions in New York City at the time. You know, with New York City having trash in the streets and stuff like that, it was just, and the Bronx being sort of like left for dead and in ashes early in the days. That's kind of what happened. You know, Bronx was sort of left for dead. It was complete ash and rubble, and out of that, hip hop was born. You know, so yeah, it's interesting to learn the different parts of the culture because we've grown up as assimilated human beings. The same way that you say
yeah.
Chinese, LA talk is the same way that I tell people, hey, I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I'm fluent in Spanglish.
That's right.
So yeah, makes sense.
Uh, okay, musical city you haven't visited yet.
Seattle.
Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. Best live music performance.
Oh my gosh, Incubus at Red Rocks in Colorado. They have a 2004 performance that they put out as a DVD, and you could probably catch it on YouTube in its entirety. But yeah, Incubus live at Red Rocks, 2004.
Most engaging DJ you haven't mentioned yet.
Oh my gosh. There's a DJ. I'm gonna give a shout out to DJ Talim, and I want to give another shout out to DJ Nino Flex. But I want to talk about DJ Talim because DJ Talim is a young man that I met recently, who I'm gonna have on my show soon. But he's sort of a living legend. It's crazy how you meet some of these folks that are still in the paint doing gigs. I'm talking about Talim's doing at least 20 gigs in the month of June,
Wow.
and he's got history. It's like unsung heroes, man, that have really just like you think about some of the hip hop legends that are in the culture, whether it be hip hop or whether it be dance music, because all of these genres blend when you really dig into it. But yeah, he's been around for such a long. There's a documentary called Rubble Kings that talks about what I was just mentioning with the Bronx being left in ashes and rubble. And out of that, hip hop was born because it kind of started with gang culture.
Yeah.
But we're talking about gangs that were more focused on, peace, love, unity, and having a good time.
Hmm.
But yeah, Rubble Kings is a documentary, and Talim did like the mixtape for the documentary. So you're just hugely talented dude, hugely engaging mixes, DJ Talim.
Very nice. Here, we got this for him.
There you go. There you go.
Best community management tip.
Best community management tip, trust yourself. Be yourself and trust yourself. The heart of
Oh, I got overlays. Sorry.
I love it. Yeah, at the heart of any great community manager is a human being who is being authentically themselves in such a way that it resonates with others. So be yourself and trust yourself. And yeah, everything else should fall into place.
In the speaker's world too, that's the thing we tell people can work on every day. Your authenticity. You want to be a better human being, work on your authenticity.
And how do you achieve that authenticity, right? Is being as vulnerable as you possibly can. So get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Amen. All right. And last question. What's your wish for 2025? What do you want to have happen before the end of this year?
I think 2025 is the year of collaboration. So I want to see more of that. I wish that for everyone. And I want folks to get out there, identify the folks who are your tribe, support them in any way that you can, and collaborate, because we need it now more than ever. We need community and collaboration now more than ever, because it truly does take a village in any endeavor.
I totally agree. And Jeffrey, definitely run a campaign on your LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm looking to get to 125 connections.
Oh, yeah, that's coming.
and do a countdown every week, and you'll be surprised. I did it on YouTube, and it allowed me to get over the 100 mark and the 500 mark. And it's some way to involve your community, just saying, hey, you just want to be supportive, just click this button. And you'll be amazed about how useful it is. So, all right. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining me here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. We look forward to seeing you online and any community that you work on, too.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
We'll see you next time. All right. We've been talking with Jeffrey Rowe, and his part to do is, right? Be yourself, for crying out loud. Be yourself. And the question for you today is, what's your musical influence? Or what do we like to say to other people? What's your walk-on song? If you could only pick one song, what's the song that represents you as you walk on? So you listen to another episode here of Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Subscribe, share, like, or comment if you are on one of our social medias. Hey, you want all the episodes? Go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online. Over 100 episodes now available. And we actually have episodes queued up into the end of 2026. One a week on Wednesday will come out. Hey, come join me in person or online at the Engaging Conference, October 28th to 30th. You want to see community, watch this special event. Last year was magical, really transformed people, whether you joined us virtually or or in person. All the in-person people too get a chance to present and get on our stage for 5 minutes, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON. And the last one is, if you want to be like Jeffrey, well, then go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you too could be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Hey, I'll see you next time.